it ended 18 days, and there was Surya Grahana at the end of Mahabharata, and at the beginning of Mahabharata was also Chandra Grahana, lunar and solar eclipse. And it is clearly said, after 36 years Mahabharata war, again there was such a time when there were two eclipses in one fortnight itself, one lunar and other solar. Naturally, that can only happen between Amavasya and Purnima. And then Krishna and the Yadavas, they had to face their end. And it is said it is this curse of Gandhari. So, the scholars have made wonderful study based on the computation when and where these eclipses they happened. Within a gap of 36 years, two eclipses, solar and lunar, happening within a fortnight. And they finally arrived at two. One happening in 2183 BC and other 3067 BC. But the other corroborating evidences are also present in Mahabharata. Vyasa very clearly gives positions of different stars. Accordingly, when Shanishchara, the Saturn, is in Rohini and Kuja, Mars, is in Jyeshtha, Mahabharata war occurred. By knowing this, they have fixed it, it is 3067 BC. They have located the star position of Rohini, Jyeshtha, Kritika and Magha. Based on all these studies, it has been done. And so, when Mahabharata war dating is fixed, it's before 5000 years roughly, or 5150 or 200 years before that it happened, means even before that was the Vedic period. And so Rajaram gives the Vedic chronology. And not to speak about the wonderful voluminous contribution of Kalyana Raman. Dr. Kalyana Raman has uploaded more than 10,000 pages of literature on this in the internet. Interested people can as well refer to. And he gives a lot of evidences starting from the pollen evidence to so many things, and also recession of the glaciers. And in the meantime, I should tell you one point also, that is how this ended up. It is clearly said, after the drying up of Saraswati, the great Vedic civilization, it found its end. Why Saraswati dried up? Because of the geographical changes. And we should know, no man destroyed this. It is the nature which creates civilizations and destroys. It is a cosmic Leela. Saraswati had earlier two great rivers as its tributaries. One was Yamuna, and the other was Shatavadhani. Shatavadhani is the modern Satluj. From the northern side, it is the Satluj, which was the tributary, and from the southern side, it was the Yamuna. And because of the changes in the earth crust, and because of the constant movements of the plates, and these studies have been done by wonderful people who are well versed in geology. Even today, a great person who is living fortunately, who is in Chamarajpet, if you just go by the Bull Temple Road, at the beginning of Bull Temple Road, near Uma Theatre, you have a corner building, and there is Dr. Radhakrishna, Dr. B.P. Radhakrishna. His elder brother was my Paramaguru, my guru's guru, my teacher's teacher in engineering college. And he is a well-known person in geology. He was the director of Geological Society of India. And he, with other teams of scholars, he has published a wonderful collection of papers on Saraswati River. It is published from the Institute of Geological Society of India. It is available, very well researched and thoroughly documented one. There he shows how the geological changes they occurred in the drying up of Saraswati. Once the plates changed moving, the terrain itself changed. So the slope got changed. And Yamuna could no more flow into Saraswati, and it has to change its course towards Ganga. Likewise, the Shatavadhani river changed its course and turned towards Sindhu. These two great tributaries, when once they stopped flowing into Saraswati river, naturally it has to dry up. And that place is clearly mentioned in the Tandi Mahabrahmana and even in the Mahabharata and other later Brahmanas too. That is one place called as Vinashana. Vinashana means ending up. There, Saraswati ends in the desert and vanishes. And later it is seen at some other place and again flows. And that point is called as Plaksha Prasravana. Prasravana means secretion, oozing. Plaksha, it's one place. From then, so Saraswati broke into two. At one place it ended, and later, after a certain place, at a certain distance, it started flowing. And that, because of paucity of water, ended up as a marshy place, and that is Rann of Kutch. And in our tradition, oral tradition, and again coming to Purana as written tradition, you know, Triveni Sangama is in Prayaga, Tirtharaja. Though we have only Ganga and Yamuna, it is said Saraswati Gupta Gamini. Why it is Gupta Gamini? Once tributary of Saraswati, Yamuna, came to Ganga's fold, and that's why the traces of Saraswati are yet present. And when once Saraswati dried up, the people staying in Saraswati, on the banks of Saraswati, they moved to Ganga Yamuna. That is Kurupanchala. So earlier, what was Saptasindhu Pradesha, as it is called, Asikni, Vipasha, Vitasta, Shatadru, Parushni, and then Saraswati, Sindhu. These places, they were occupied, no more waters. And we know from the satellite photography that maximum number of settlements are found not on the banks of Sindhu, on the banks of Saraswati, all along the course of Saraswati. So the Saraswati, when it's dried up, all the people had to migrate. And that became a great drought later. It's an international drought, intercontinental drought as such. It existed for almost 200 years. And it was affected starting from Ireland to China. That is how the scholars have identified. A very vast strip of land suffered this drought. And many civilizations they ended, even Egypt, even Minoan civilization, Cretan civilization, even the Babylonian civilization, all these, they had to face a lot of difficulty, it is said. And basing on all these, a chronology has been, dependable chronology has been developed. Our modern civilization started with the end of Ice Age. And that end of Ice Age, perhaps 11,000 BC to 10,000 BC. And that's why in the Vedas we have a lot of references to waters flowing, stopped water, checked water in the name of Vrutra, and then flowing and all that. Before Ice Age, the whole area was very, very arid. And once the Ice Age ended, we have melting of the ice, flowing of the rivers, and then natural civilizations development. And that reference is found in Rig Veda. And in Rig Veda we have no reference to deluge. Only in the Yajurveda we have, in the Shatavadhani Brahmana. But all the oldest records of any religion, any sacred book, we have the reference to deluge in the very beginning chapters itself. That shows that the Rigvedic people had their origin even before the deluge, even before the Ice Age. End of the Ice Age, by 8000 BC, Vedic origin started perhaps. And Battle of Kings was perhaps around 4000 BC. Battle of 10 Kings, Dasharagni Yuddha. And there Vishwamitra and Vasishtha were contemporary. The third mandala, Vishwamitra mandala, and the seventh mandala, Vasishtha mandala, they themselves indicate. And Rama was student of both. So it indicates Rama existed at the end of Dasharagni Yuddha, when Vishwamitra too was pious. Unlike he having logarithms with Vasishtha, he was a good friend of Vishwamitra, was a Vasishtha, as we know from Ramayana. In the Balakanda itself, we have those references. And it is clearly said in the Mahabharata how the descendants of Rama fought in the Mahabharata war. And by the calculations we know, before 800 years or 750 years ago, Mahabharata, before Mahabharata's war, 750 or 800 years ago Mahabharata's war, these people, Rama was existed. Because how one generation has to be matched. Perhaps for a generation 40 years like that the time is given. Accordingly back tracing is done, and when that goes on we will be knowing that the date of Ramayana approximately comes around 4000 BC and Mahabharata 3000 BC, roughly we can say. Then by the end of Mahabharata, in Mahabharata we find Vyasa dividing the one singular monolithic Veda into four. So the Vedic age is complete. When critical edition, division, analysis, appendices, all that start when once it is complete. That is the general thing which happens. So when great age is complete, and by the time of Mahabharata itself, Saraswati was drying up. In Sauptika Parva, we clearly find the Tirthayatra of Balarama on pilgrimage, and all along the course of Saraswati he made the pilgrimage, and he sees how Saraswati is drying up. So when it dried up completely, that civilization ended. And then came the Sutra period, it is said, that is between 3000 to 2000 BC, Shubha Sutras period. And then the great drought and the completely drying up of Saraswati, it happened. So great drought started in around 2200 BC to 1900 BC, those 200-300 years of drought. So that ended the ancient world. From then we have the later history. I am not going to those details. This is how the Vedic dating has to be done. And here we should remember that in our Puranas we have lot of references to Manvantaras and lakhs of years and other things. They are all exaggerated, blown up figures. We have only this much. That is enough to know. It should be tangible, humanly possible ways. It's all not on supernatural basis. It's completely on the mundane human approach. Accordingly, we can find this much. And one should not be crazy, and one should not be hell-bent upon pushing the years back and back or pulling the years forward and forward. It's all basing on the evidences, we have to say, as on the available evidences today. This has been done. And then we can safely say Padini existed before Buddha. And before Buddha means at least before 7th century. Unfortunately, people like Kanchi, including Kanchi Paramacharya, Jayendra Saraswati, and a host of scholars supported or sponsored by these people, they say Shankara belonged to BCs. It is wrong. Shankara's date is clearly developed, and it has been clearly found out that between 630 and 662 approximately. He lived for only 32 years. It is mid of or the early portion of 7th century AD, not earlier to that. It has all done by no mean persons like Kuppaswamy Shastri, S. Shrikanta Shastri, Baladev Upadhyaya, and then Govind Chandra Pandya, and many scholars. And beyond doubt, we can as well depend upon that. One person by name Umesh of Chennai, an IIT product, he developed interest in this and has done a wonderful job by the title Date of Shankara, an independent book of some 300 pages or so. Very good book. Here also we can find these things. And Kalidasa, it's very difficult to say, but we can as well safely say he was contemporary of Chandragupta Vikramaditya of Gupta dynasty. And Gupta dynasty, whether it belongs to BCs or ADs, is a big question. But tentatively, I think he belonged to 4th century AD. That's my view as on today. If I get more convincing data, I can as well go. But some scholars, they opine that it is not the Chandragupta Maurya of the Mauryan dynasty who faced the Alexander's chieftain Seleucus. It is this Chandragupta Vikramaditya of Gupta dynasty who faced it. But the historians, Western historians, they have manipulated. But I don't think so, basing on the evidences. Because one person from Madhya Pradesh has published a Hindi thesis, Kalidas ki Tithi Parishuddhi, more than 700 pages. He has given 467 evidences to show Kalidasa belonged to Gupta period, that is 4th century AD. It is a very convincing one. Like this, some hallmarks have to be represented here and there, but dating in Indian context is very difficult. With all that, this much is sufficient, I think. And with this, I shall go to the question and answers, and then we shall have a 5 minutes break and end up our session with the 64 arts. I would like to know the points from the primary and secondary sources which disprove Aryan invasion theory. I think I have given sufficient information. And then I was reading Baligundu Nambike from DVG. Generally, it was reflecting the lack of Kshatra due to various reasons over last 2000 years, even before Shankara came in. I am really surprised why learned people did not fight against AAT or AMT. In those days, in the time of Shankara and all, who would fight? Okay, all right. Well, that's what we too don't know. For example, I respect Professor Hiryanna a lot, but Professor Hiryanna too has. Yesterday I was going through some of his works. Says Rigveda 500 BC, Harohara, Shambho Shankara, impossible. Whether it is Hiryanna or Hiryanna, whatever, I can't agree. But they are also products of their times. Anand Kumar Swami, very great champion of Indian culture, and who argued the case of India profoundly well at the global level, he too accepts Aryan invasion theory. Many people, whether it is D.V. Gundappa, has not clearly mentioned anything, of course. Many scholars they have. That's what I am saying. Those who boldly opposed, they had very few archaeological evidences. They have to depend upon literary evidences. The Saraswati river evidence, it came only in early 80s and it became established in 90s. Till then it was not known. If these evidences, if Shrikant Shastri or A.C. Das they had, they would have baffled any scholar on the globe. So that is one of the reasons. We should not, at least the Indian scholars like Vasudev Sharan Agrawala or Moti Chandra or Baladev Upadhyaya, Govind Chandra Pandya, or many people are Gopinath Kaviraj, Dr. V. Raghavan, Kuppuswamy Shastrigal, P.V. Kane. Everybody is a great scholar. Everybody is a very great scholar. Sampurnanand. Many scholars are there. We should not doubt their gifts. We should not doubt their caliber. We should not doubt their commitment to Sanatana Dharma and Indian culture and above all truth. But they had no evidence perhaps, I think. They were not convinced with this. As we say, I am telling about the date of Kalidasa. I am not yet convinced with the details and the data which is given in favor of Kalidasa in BCs. So I haven't. That doesn't mean I am not fair to my tradition, I am not fair to my culture and other things. This would have happened. But the ways of British and the ways of the pseudo-secularists and communists, it's entirely different. See, no great communist scholar has given any positive contribution to Indian learning. Whether it is D.D. Kosambi or Rahul Sankratyaina. You have to look at the venom with which D.D. Kosambi writes. No pertinence, no logic, no consideration, nothing. And all the points can as well be triggered against him. That is so with Rahul Sankratyaina. Rahul Sankratyaina blindly accepts all that is said by Buddha is good. All that is given in the Buddhist sources is honest. But no one source of Sanatana Dharma is good. He clearly says. And Bhagavad Sharan Upadhyaya, very great scholar, but this perversion is there. We have to read books of Bhagavad Sharan Upadhyaya, wonderful books. But what to do? Even D.D. Kosambi or Rahul Sankrityana, they were very great scholars, but they didn't had good intentions. They had such biases that can, Bhagavat Charan Upadhyaya's biases are not too many, but these two, especially D.D. Kosambi. How about Ramasetu satellite evidence? I haven't studied much, but we have literary evidences of 14th century also to show that there existed a land link between Sri Lanka and India. And whether it is built by Rama or not, it's a big question. What I feel is, Ramayana is a poem basing on history. So all the things should never be taken in the literal sense. They would have had some way. We don't know the way in which the ocean existed in those days. They would have built some structure or not. To a certain extent, I think that it's man-made. But if the dating is going back to something like some lakhs of years or billions of years, I can't endorse that. I can't endorse that. That is the date of Rama and Ramayana. Because it will change the whole way of Veda, Saraswati and other things. And Saraswati would have never flowed before the Ice Age. Only after the Ice Age it started flowing. And hence it has to be questioned like that. Why? Because there are some over-enthusiasts. They are like Rama Parivara, Vanaras. I don't respect them. It's a sort of hysteria. So, the existence of a structure, natural structure, some coral ridge or coral relief like that, it is different from a bridge. Yes, it may be used, it would have been used. But one thing is true, Ramayana's dating cannot go back to lakhs of years. That much is true. I don't know what is the exact dating that they have made ultimately regarding the Ramasetu. What is the date? I haven't got any correct report regarding that. That's why I have no say on that. It's a very interesting question. It is often said that one does everything to be happy, but often doing wrong thing can bring happiness, or doing what is right may be painful. What does the Indian tradition say about happiness as a goal? Of course, by doing wrong things one can be happier. True. But the others will not be. They will come in the way of the people who are happy by doing wrong things. And then they will be naturally led to miserable state of affairs. And that's why my happiness, if it is not harming any other's happiness, then I have a hope that my happiness would not be disturbed. My happiness at what cost? I think I told that happiness is the highest goal, H capital, but not at the cost of anybody. That will be an assurance. Even in spite of having no intervention to others' happiness, my happiness may be hampered at times. When that being the case, the converse will not be true. And then, when doing right things, it will also lead to pain. One thing is true. There is no assurance that good thing will always bring happiness. For happiness, I have to do good things. If that is the thing, okay. By doing good things, I will be getting happiness. This corollary is never true. It becomes business. I shall do good, that's all. By doing karma, I may get fruit or not, but I should not bother and do that. See, I am talking to you. I have a blank mind. I don't know how many of you would pursue these studies and go much further and you do better work in these things. I don't know. But it is my job. It's my prarabdha. I have to do this. That's all. I don't expect anything. I don't expect anything. Like that one can do. Then one person has said, why some of the suktas end with prashna, rudra prashna, aruna prashna in Yajurveda? In Yajurveda, the division of the sections is like kandas. 7 kandas, and every kanda will have subsections called prashnas, and every prashnas will have anuvakas, and every anuvakas will have panchashat, means 50 words or 50 letters called panasa, hanusu, like that we call pannasa. Panchashat becomes pannasat in Prakrita, and that will become panasa, panasa, hanasu in Kannada and Telugu, like that. So it is the name of the section. Pruchati iti prashna, inquiry. The student inquired and the teacher answered as the Vedic hymns, something like that. And I have written one article itself on the naming of such sections. Why something is called Anhika, Patala, Kandika, Kanda, Parva, like that. And what is the meaning of Sutra, Karika, Bhashya, and then Tika, Vyakhyana, what are the differences, like that. It is an ancient way of naming. And then one more question. In the context of rituals, what is the significance of Mangala Arati? Waving fire, no? I can just say, waving the lamp. It is Aratrika. Aratrika is a way of, one need not go to prove every act of ritual as logical, scientific and other things. So many things, they defy logic. We should have this in mind. We should not be hell-bent upon proving any point with reference to science or spirituality. But for that matter, the camphor came to India from the southeastern islands, Java, Madagascar, Sumatra, Borneo, Malaya and other places. And it's not a native Indian product. Nowhere in the Vedas and even in the Vedangas we have reference to camphor, Karpura. Only in the later literature we have Kalidasa and others, they have plentifully in replete they have mentioned. And the way of this camphor, they are called, in chemistry they are called by one particular thing. Of course, sublimation, but they belong to one particular category. They are all organic compounds, aromatic compounds, exactly, aromatic compounds. They directly go from solidus to gaseous, bypassing liquidus. And that would have been felt wonderful. Even something burns, it will be left with ashes. But this has no ash. So complete sublimation, complete annihilation, that is a way of leaving no footprints, leaving no evidence and ending up our lives. Something like Sadeha Mukti. That may be the indication behind that would have been. And the most logical and mundane answer is, generally the Garbhagraha Sanctum Sanctorum is in the dark position, and so focusing, devotion and a sort of suspense, secrecy, curiosity will all be generated. In that, immediately when the Aratrika is lit and it is waved in front of the image at different levels, it will be a wonderful experience. So it is an illumination, natural illumination, and lot of fragrance is also there. Thing. Well, with this I think we shall conclude this session. In some of the pujas, Swarnagauri puja for example, Yajnopavita is offered to goddess. Yes, I told in the other day. Yajnopavita Dhrita Pavitra Kayam, something like that. Banabhatta's Mahashweta had Yajnopavita, and Parvati in Penance had Maunji Bandhana. All that I told. Kalidasa's Parvati and Valmiki's Sita as well as Kausalya. All these people they had, and one can get into the thread ceremony initiation as well. And personally I feel all the samskaras are important, and anybody irrespective of the caste, irrespective of the language, caste, creed and other things, or the gender, they can have the samskaras. It is better. If you feel that it gives an upliftment and motivation, one can as well have it. And there are people who can accomplish that. I can find for yourselves Purohits also. If nobody worst to worst, I will come. No problem. Because it is a beautiful thing which one and all should undergo. If possible, practice it. It's always better. And that practicing gives lot of strength and meaning into it. When we want to feel the wind, we have to move in that direction. When I am here or when I am standing outside, I will not feel. But when I go on a bicycle, I feel more. When I go on a two-wheeler, motorized two-wheeler, I feel much more. Did that speed of air change? No. It was moving the same speed. My intensity of moving in that direction, it has changed. It has accelerated. So I feel it more. So as we go deeper and deeper, as we move further, we will be having that feeling. And I don't think only Brahmana supposed to be Janma Brahmana is supposed to have these samskaras and male is supposed to have these samskaras. I don't endorse all these things. For that matter, even Arya Samaj, they have done wonderful job in that manner. And these are the things which we have to adopt. I think earlier one and all had, and now they are missing. For example, the name Brahmachari has another synonym, Varni. Varnaha asmin iti Varni. Only after the initiation into thread ceremony, that is Upanayana, a person will have an opportunity to choose his Varna. Till then, nobody. Janmana jayate shudra. This is not found in Manusmriti. Many people say it is in Manusmriti. Janmana jayate shudra samskarat vijauchyate vedabhyasat bhaved vipraha brahmajanati brahmana. No, but it's a wonderful shloka. Whoever would have written this, I have not found any dependable source to this yet. Well, what I mean here is, all are by janma same. So by samskara we have to choose and adopt. Up to 10th standard, one and all will be having the same sort of syllabus study and all. Later they choose their professions, they choose their field and go. At the level of PUC itself, they differ. At the level of degree, they differ. At the level of masters, like that, they may differ, they may diverge. But this much is true. That is, they should have some basics. And into the basics, we have the yajna, dana, tapas and other things. And later specializations. So, everybody has a right. Learning the Vedas, knowledge, it is all birthright. Shankara has clearly said, Jnane sarvesham adhikaraha iti sthitam in his Taittiriya Bhashya. And just because Shankara told, I need not follow that. I agree because my pertinence endorses. Thank you. The last session in this course, rather, very informal, interactive course, which is very much of use to me. I found many questions and many people coming and inquiring, but in one point, I feel disillusioned. That is, specific questions are there, but nobody came to me with any feedback that the approach to this, whether it is good or bad, nobody gave that. ಮಂಗಳಾರತಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾ ಶ್ರಾದ್ದ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾ ಸೂತಕ ಬಂತ ಯುಗ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ ರಾಮ ನಿಜವಾಗಿದ್ನ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬದುಕಿದ್ನ these things and so many such things. But you should never miss wood among trees. In that way, whether my approach, whatever I am giving, whether it is suitable to you or not, whether you find any logical fallacies there or not, whether you have any agreement or disagreement, nobody has said that. I feel really pained in this regard. Because, please? No, not qualified. You have your own intellect, you have rationale, you have your own grey matter, of course. With that, can you not say whether it is right or wrong? It's not to feel that I have done something great. To reaffirm or question my own stand. I need that. I don't need any glowing tributes to my job. What just I need is whether it is pertinent or not, whether it is logically tenable or not. This is what I need. If you have in your mind, and if you are not coming with that, and coming with all these things, I should just get disillusioned. Because I am here to give you an approach. I cannot give complete information. Complete information is almost impossible. For example, Mankanaka. Who is Mankanaka? One character appearing in Mahabharata. I am sure none of you here may be knowing that. If you know, thank God. Well, why I am saying this name Mankanaka, who was he and what was he and what he achieved and what not he achieved, it's of little importance than the spirit of Mahabharata. But the approach is very, very important. I told the Aryan invasion theory and its implications, and that approach, it disturbed so much. Even our great honest scholars, they were derailed. Fortunately, their works are not dependent on Aryan invasion theory. The writings of Hiriyanna, Raghavan, or Gopinath Kaviraj, or Moti Chandra, they are not entirely dependent on this dating and theory. Independent of that, they have so much of use and so much of relevance. If not, it would have been just something like a house built by pack of cards. It would have collapsed. So this philosophy and approach is very, very important. Unfortunately, what I am seeing earlier, before 7 years, I used to think that I am wrong and all people are wise, and so I have to be apologetic in my approach, and that's why I always used to be defensive in nature. And since these 5-7 years, I have become more offensive. I have become more and more critical and saying that the people know little. That's how I come to the conclusion. It's not of arrogance, because the philosophical orientation is more important than the details. Details, of course, they do matter. But more than the details, it's the approach. See, you have to turn to north if you want to go to Rajajnagar. That is the philosophical approach. You have to choose which way, whether Bull Temple Road, or whether it is RV Road, or whether it is Goodshed Road. That is immaterial. One or the other road you will find. You can as well fly also, or crawl, whatever. This approach is very essential. I thought that the younger generation and people coming from different walks of life, apart from the routine, they have some of these things. But again and again, I am disillusioned, and that's why I am not for public talk. I think I should withdraw from these things. I should be content with a small group and such interaction. Well, enough of my grievances. People say the river flowing in the place Mana near Badrinath is Saraswati river. Yes, it is said so. Well, it may be Saraswati river as well. And then it emerges in the Adi Badri near Ambala as the Saraswati river and flows in the plains. Well, I am not going to discuss regarding Aryan invasion theory now. I have the most important thing in front of me, that is about 64 arts. I told about the Ashtadasha Vidyasthanas, and one among them is the Gandharva Veda. And Gandharva Veda includes so many arts. And Gandharva Veda is related to the Purushartha Kama, the third Purushartha Kama. And so the great work that explores the third Purushartha is Vatsyayana's Kama Sutra. So many things have been misunderstood, and one of the greatest works which have been misunderstood is Kama Sutra of Vatsyayana Muni. Mallanaga Vatsyayana is his full name. Vatsa Gotra. He belonged to the Gotra Vatsa and Vatsyayana, and his name is Mallanaga. There are several Vatsyayanas. Pakshala Swami Vatsyayana is the person who wrote commentary on the Nyaya Sutras, and this is Mallanaga Vatsyayana. Here, in Vatsyayana's Kama Sutra, it should not be confined to a handbook on erotics. It is much more than that. In the beginning, we have a chapter called Nagaraka Vrittanta, how a civilized person should behave and how he should divide his time and enjoy the things. In our tradition, we have Rajacharya, how a king should divide his day. and night into different parts, and how he has to use it usefully, the utilitarian way of it, and how he should be available to subjects, and the mantralochana, the discussion with the ministry and taking the decisions. All these are very meticulously presented in Kautilya's Arthashastra. Like that, we have in the Ayurveda Rutucharya and Dinacharya, how a healthy person should behave, both in the great Samhitas of Sushruta and Charaka. We have wonderful details, and that has been very well ably summed up by Vagbhata in Ashtanga Sangraha and Ashtanga Hridaya. And we have Kavicharya, how a poet should live and how an artist should lead his life in Rajashekara's Kavimimamsa. We have that perhaps in the 8th chapter. So also we have Vatsyayana's Nagarika Vrittanta. And there he has mentioned 64 arts. Many concepts in India are very beautiful, and every word has its own connotation. Shastra, Kala, Vidya, Shilpa, Darshana, all are different. Darshana is a viewpoint, a view, an approach. Drish, Bhavakarnado, that is the dhatu, and that means Bhavakarna, my feeling and my action, my activity, my approach and orientation towards certain thing, that is Darshana. And Shasana, Shas and Shams, these are the two dhatus which give rise to the word Shasana, Shastra. Shasanat tatha Shamsanat Shastram. Shasana means prescription, do's and don'ts. And Shamsana means revelation. In a Shastra, we need both. He should reveal something new and should prescribe something good or bad. And some of the Shastras are physical science, like physical sciences. They don't prescribe. Physics never prescribes anything. But sociology and law, they prescribe. So the prescriptive nature, they are the normative sciences, and the descriptive nature, the physical sciences are there. And Kala, Kal, Sankhyaane, Gatau, Kshepecha, that is the dhatu. The word Kala has come from this dhatu, the root. Kala means Gatau. There should be some dynamics in art. Wonderful vibrance and then revelation, that should be the way of art. It should mean something. It should have pulsating feeling, and that is the way of art. And always we know, Sarve Gatyartaka Dhatavaha Jnanarthe Prayuktaha, it is said. Every dhatu which represents knowledge will have dynamism in nature. Any dhatu which has the meaning of dynamics can as well be used for jnana. Means our tradition always says jnana is not static, it is always dynamic. For that matter, Chaitanya is dynamic. Atma has come from the root An, Spandane, vibrance. And then we have other meaning, Sankhyaana. Sankhyaana means analysis. In art, we should have an amount of intellectuality also. If not, it cannot be comprehended and it cannot be brought forward. It cannot be handed over to the future generation. To teach, we should have some prescription. It should be structured. That's why if I become too creative, I cannot be a good teacher at all. I should be prescriptive at certain level. If a musician starts teaching and at every level he starts different sangatis, how the student should grasp? He should have the capability of reproducing and also creating. Reproduction and creation are very, very important. Both are important. Just because I have manodharma, for example, Nada Sudha Rasam Bilanu, Nada Sudha Rasam Bilanu. Hundreds of times the same Nada Sudha Rasa. Nada Sudha Rasam Bilanu. This is the second Sangati. Nada Sudha Rasam Bilanu. Nada Sudha Rasam Bilanu. Nada Sudha Rasam Bilanu. This is the third Sangati. This faithfulness of reproduction is also an important feature. If not, you cannot teach. The unbroken tradition needs teaching, effective teaching. And at the same time, a creative person will be transcending this. He will be adding new things. Nada sudharasam bilanu, nada sudharasam bilanu, nada sudharasam bil. Like that. Nada sudharasam bilanu. Like that, one can go on. But the thing is, he should be first faithful to the basic structure. To grasp the structure, skeleton of it, he should reproduce, and then he should outgrow that. Nobody can learn poetry in the first step itself. First, they have to learn grammar, language, and then the features of it. Likewise, the Sankhyanā is also very important. Why? I am emphasizing on this point. Nowadays, in the name of creativity, anarchy is propagated. Ruthless, shameless, ruleless features are projected as great art. See, they can't even reproduce one leaf properly. They become modern artists of great creativity. What fun! I can't understand. They can't even write 4 lines in a metrical pattern, and they become great poets. Lot of erudition should go into the work, and it has to be transcended. Unfortunately, we have only the two extremes. Only erudition, no creation. Just production, something like mass production in a factory, nuts and bolts, only nuts, not even bolts. Nuts producing nuts. But here, no nut, no bolt. It's only a jolt. That is in the name of modernity and creativity. We need nuts and bolts, of course, but to fasten something, is it not? To fasten something means fasten the hearts, fasten the ideas. So, Sankhyanā is one more dimension of art. And the last one is Kshepe, means thrown into ecstasy. That should happen, the aha, vah, that should happen in art. If not, it is not art. I should forget myself. In the first lecture itself, I told about the nature of Ananda and the forgetfulness and all that. So, I need not ponder over that again. This is how Kala. So, Drashana, Shastra, Kala and Vijnana. Jnana is, of course, absolute knowledge, and Vijnana, Vishishtam Jnanam, means qualified knowledge. Knowledge beyond qualities and qualification, that is Jnana. In Vijnana, we have one more thing, Shilpa. Shilpa has come from the root Shil. Shil Samadhu means Samadha, tranquility. That leading to harmony and tranquility, that is Shilpa. So all these are used in different connotations, and 64 arts, in the name of 64 arts, we have some Shastras, some Kalas, and some as Vijnana, and some other as Shilpa, and we also have Krida. Krida, sport, Khel. Like that, all are included, and so it's a very vast thing. And it is often said, to ridicule rather, Indians are experts in divisions, dividing into so many features and presenting. Not are these moderners in what way different? Even the moderners do that. When there is an expansive nature of knowledge, when there is so much of growth, we have to divide and categorize and show that. And also naming. They are very, very important. If we can't name anything properly, anything effectively, we can't comprehend easily. For example, if we don't know the name cow, we need a paragraph to explain what I saw. It's an animal. Well, which sort of animal? 4 legs. Even donkey has, lion has, with hoofs. Horse has hoofs, but in different way. And it has horns. And even the deer have horns. It is different. So many details are needed. In that way, Samnya Paribhasha, the technical naming is very, very useful for communication. That's called Laghava. And in Patanjali's Paspashanika, the great commentary on Mahabhashya, on Panini Sutras, the Mahabhashya, we have all these details. Why language is needed, why grammar is needed. He gives 5 uses of grammar. Wonderful. Why I am saying this? Our ancestors, they thought about all these things and developed. And here we have included all arts, the classical arts, the folk arts, the popular arts, crafts, everything. It's a big, all encompassing, very generous way of classification. Why I am saying, nowadays, in the name of folk and classical, another division has been developed very cleverly. We know the word clever has the meaning that is crafty, wily, foul. With that sense only I am using this word cleverly. Very cleverly the leftists are bringing the so-called division of Brahmana and Abrahmana, Brahmana and Shudra into the world of arts too. The folk arts are all Shudra in nature and the classical arts are all Brahminic in nature, like that they are saying. But it is not true. We cannot attribute any art to any caste or any creed. So, these 64 arts, they go by that. And we have certain numbers, something magical numbers, something like 4, 16, 64 and all, the multiples of 4 for that matter, they are special, or multiples of 3. It is a fancy, they are called magic numbers as well. And 64 is one number. There may be more or less. For that matter, though we have 64 arts, we have many other lists also. For example, one list in Lalita Vistara, a Buddhist work dealing with the life of Buddha in a peculiar language. It's an admixture of Prakrit and Sanskrit. We have reference to 86 arts. All these arts were learnt by Buddha. And then we have one more list in the Prabandha Kosha and Shukranitsara. In Shukranitsara we have 64 in different way. In Prabandha Kosha of the Jains, we have one list of 72. They are called Vidyas in the Jain tradition. I am going to give you in a comprehensive manner all the 5 or 6 lists put together, and so I have made a different classification altogether. The names and the details are all present here in my exposition, but I have divided even more logically tenable so that we can get a comprehensive idea of one and all. And then we should also appreciate our ancestors' efforts, for they did so meticulously. When the rest of the world had not even thought of any such development, they made such a difficult thing possible. They took so much of pain to categorize these things, to define and to elaborate and to pave further way in that course. Now, the arts basically divided into 2. Kalas into Charukala and Karukala. Charukala means fine arts and Karukala means crafts. They can also be divided into Lalita Kala, Kushala Kala, Vinoda Kala, Krida Kala, Vanijya Kala, Yuddha Kala and Sankirna Kala. Lalita Kala, fine arts. Kushala Kala, crafts. Vinoda Kala, art for entertainment, light art. And Krida Kala, the sports. And Vanijya Kala, the business art. And Yuddha Kala, martial art. And Sankirna Kala, belonging to no such groups. And it's an allied one, assorted group. We have many books also. I shall just give you some of the major books. Fine Arts in Ancient India by Anil Bharam Ganguly. Kalas by Venkat Subbaya A. Festival, Sports and Pastimes of India by V. Raghavan. Wonderful book. Any writing of Raghavan is very valuable. Shilpa Kalas in Sanskrit literature. Ila Ghosh. Prachin Bharat ke Kalatmak Vinod by Hajari Prasad Vivedi. Very, very wonderful book. Hajari Prasad Vivedi was an embodiment of Indian culture. Raghavan, Hajari Prasad Vivedi, Moti Chandra, Vasudev Sharan Agarwal, K. Krishnamurti, Hiriyanna, Anand Kumar Swami. These are all something like modern rishis. They are unbiased. They are critical and compassionate. They are pertinent and prudent. They are prolific and peaceful. They are illuminating and illustrative. In wonderful combination we find their capabilities. Then in Kannada we have one book by name Arvatnalku Kalegalu by M. Sridhar Murthy and Chatushashti Kale by Dr. T. Satyavati. Indian Entertainment by E.R. Saletore. Very good book indeed. These are some of the books available. Well, in that way these are categorized. Now I shall take up the literary arts. In literary arts we have Sahitya Kalaha, Kavya Kriya, poetry, writing poetry, how to compose poems. It has been taught in ancient India. Of course, it's very difficult to teach poetry. But as we can teach classical music and classical dance and classical painting, so also classical poetry. Unfortunately, nowadays, our children have been initiated into classical dance, music and painting too, but not classical literature. My dream is to revitalize that. I've written few articles on that. It is in the internet too. The necessity of classical writing, classical poetry is emphasized there. But it's a very difficult art. It needs erudition and a bit of expertise in so many fields. However, we should never ignore that, because poetry or writing, creative writing, is the most exploited and misused, misrepresented and abused art form by the anti-Indians, by the anti-Sanatana Dharmis. And all the universities, all the academic bodies, they are all haunted by these imps and devils. So, to counter them, we need this. Unfortunately, in this regard, I think all the so-called champions of Hindu movement, they have given no mind. Many times I have pleaded, I have argued, I have fought with them. They have only given their deaf ears, nothing more than that. Thinking of art is a sin to the champions of Sanatana Dharma. To all the heroes of Hinduism, art itself is a sin. But art is the only way by which we can join people, we can communicate with different mindsets, and we can be compassionate and yet critical. It's all possible by art. And as Professor M. Hirana says, art can successfully take the role of religion in modern times, where reason, rationality and equality, democracy reign supreme as values. Then Kriya Kalpa. Kriya Kalpa is the ancient name given to aesthetics, later called as Alankara Shastra or Sahitya Mimamsa. It is Kriya Kalpa. Means creating poetry and also analyzing and appreciating poetry. Both are very, very important. Karayitri Pratibha, the creative genius, and Bhavayitri Pratibha, the appreciative genius. And then Abhidhana Kosha, Chando Vijnana. Abhidhana Kosha is about lexicography. One should have word power. Yesterday, when we met for the Raghumsha study circle, I was telling, one name moon can be represented in thousands of ways with thousands of synonyms in Sanskrit. See, for one ocean, you can have not less than 500 names. That is possible in Sanskrit. To create number of words, word building is a very, very important role in poetry. And suitably, for example, breeze or wind has so many names in Sanskrit. Swashanaha, Sparshano, Vayuhu, Matarishva, Sadagatihi, Prashadashva, Gandhavaha, Gandhavaha, Anilaha, Ashugaha, Samira, Maruta, Marutu, Jagatprana, Sabhirana, Nabaswan, Vataha, Pavanaha, Pavamanaha, Prabhanjana in our kosha. When there is a gentle breeze, you can call Anila. When there is a slow and steady, Maruta. When there is a quick breeze, Samira. When there is a torrentful breeze, it is Prabhanjana. Even by the utterance you can feel. Anila cannot be uttered in a jarring manner. Prabhanjana cannot be made soft. And Samira, one Laghu, one Guru, another Laghu. Samira means you have a wave. You have an unexpected surprise. It's there. But Maruta, it's not. Vata is a very dry word. Shvasana, very breath. The importance is Jagat Prana. Gandhavaha means that which carries fragrance. In a garden, the breeze can be said Gandhavaha. Next to a drainage, we can say Durgandhavaha. Likewise, in Sanskrit, the beauty of the language is manifolded. One is